Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson of World Alternative Media here, and we're joined by Dr. Quinton Henney, PhD, Director of Newfound Gold Corp. First of all, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you, Josh.
Excellent. Now, there's a lot to talk about, so it seems the world has gone crazy. In fact, it has. I don't think there's any disputing that. But with all the craziness happening, silver has been the best performing asset of 2020, better than the NASDAQ 100, and in third place, of course, is gold. Can we finally honestly say we are in a bull market for precious metals, and if so, why?
Look, I've been through several cycles in my career, and I would say yes. The answer is a resounding yes. The caveat, we're at an early stage. Okay, so bull markets are not just all up, up, up. They go up a bit down, up a bit down. We're through that. We're going through that period right now. It's called climbing the wall of worry. All right. So a lot of people, they look and they think, oh my gosh, gold's come off $150 since its peak a couple of months ago. Oh my goodness. That was a short-lived party. Nope. It'll keep going. Okay. It'll form a nice base here. Silver too, probably in the $24 range. And I think it'll head northward from here. There's no question.
Yeah, it's been a disappointing several years for a multitude of reasons. We won't get into all of the reasons, but with that said, you can really feel something in the air right now. And I wanted to ask, with that said, why is it that bad news so often leads to people buying up gold and silver? There seems to be a trend throughout history when, perhaps there is an economic crisis or a recession. People always seem to look towards gold and silver.
Gold and silver, and I've talked about this numerous times, they actually have a place in humanity. They are meant to be money. Okay, they have properties, not the least of which is their scarcity, that make them great, great substances to use for money. And we as humans will not get away from that. Okay, people think, it's a barbarous relic, it's a thing of the past, whatever. No, if you put a gold coin on a desk, everybody that passes that desk will pick that thing up and look at it, with awe. It's not. It's basically bred into us. Okay, our genes. We recognize the value, the attractiveness of the metals, but I don't know why we've been brainwashed into thinking that they're of no use at this point. It's annoying because, well, I know why. It's because the people who want to kind of determine our fate are, basically our fiat money system. They don't want any competition. They like their paper dollars, and by gummy, they're going to push those. But gold and silver have intrinsic value. They always will. As humans, we will value them. Why do people grab them when there's bad news? Well, people operate by the brainstem when there's bad news, okay? And just like you saw back in March, when people rushed out and hoarded toilet paper. When they see bad times coming, they need a sense of security. Gold, silver provide that insurance, if you will. And that's the way I view gold and silver. It's basically they're an insurance policy against depreciating currencies, and regardless of interest rates or whatever, inflation, whatever you want to bring into the equation here, the fact of the matter is the one trend that remains constant is money depreciates, fiat currencies depreciate. The only hedge against that, in my view, serious tangible hedge is gold and silver.
Well, there's certainly a survivalism aspect, and there's no doubt that throughout history we see people flock to gold and silver when, especially looking at the gold and silver ratio right now, it's been basically setting off alarms for the last year or so, especially. And it's interesting that you mentioned, the fiat system, because, you have all of these institutions that, in my opinion, have been trying to manipulate gold and silver for years. They've been trying to, I mean, it's not even an opinion. Deutsche Bank has been caught red-handed in this. A bunch of the major banks have gone to court over this and found guilty of spoofing gold and silver prices. So it goes without saying that there's definitely a lot of players involved trying to suppress gold and silver and prop up their old money system. And the old money system I'm talking about isn't the repeating cycles of gold and silver, but really just the fiat system, which has failed every single time around every turn. And with that said, it's interesting that you bring up, the people that talk down to gold and silver, especially over the last several years. I wanted to ask you, how far away do you think we are from an "I told you so" moment for gold and silver after years of many institutional investors laughing at precious metals?
Look, the "I told you" moment will be when there is a failure, like a fundamental failure of the system. Okay, and I don't think we're there yet. Like I said, I think we're in kind of the early stages of this cycle. Where this cycle ends and how long it takes, I don't quite know. This one's a bit different than the ones in the past. I've been through the gold silver cycle in the 70s. There was another, I'd say a minor one in the early 1990s, and then of course 2002 through 2011. That was a big one. This one's a little different. What's different? Well, we've been now through two kind of worldwide catastrophic economic, well, I don't know what you call them. I mean, they're so pervasive. I mean, they're basically all encompassing. They're a worldwide catastrophic event. We had the GFC. Now we've got this pandemic. How have they dealt with it? Well, pumping money into the system. What does that result? Well, depreciation of money. I mean, even your average guy now, is looking around and thinking, something's not working. You can feel it in the pit of your stomach. Okay, well, how long does it take to unfold? Look, I don't know, because I think, unfortunately, this time the economic situation is going to also translate into a bit of social disorder, and that's what spooks me the most. A lot of people say, "Oh, aren't you like?" They know I'm in the gold business or silver business. They think, "Oh, you must be really happy right now." And I'm like, no, I'd rather have a stable world than super high gold and silver price any day. But unfortunately, that's where we're headed.
Well, there's no doubt it is unstable. I mean, with elections coming up and the pandemic, I mean, you can't really compare this year to any year, so it's kind of up in the air. We just know crisis management, people tend to flock to things like gold and silver. And recently, the head of the IMF also said that they're looking at a great financial reset. So, I mean, there's so much hitting us from all ends right now. But I wanted to ask you a little bit about the mining side of this, because obviously people for many years have looked at gold and silver as wealth insurance more than an investment in a lot of cases, outside of the banks anyway. And then there's the aspect of mining, which tends to be something that stands out to a lot of people as far as investing goes. You have been involved in many successes in the mining industry. What is your opinion on investing in mining rather than the metals themselves?
Well, look, you probably see more leverage by investing in mining companies. Look at companies like Newmont, for example. They've nearly doubled, or pretty close to it, in the past, say, 9 months or so. That's great. I mean, compare that to raw gold price. Gold price was, in the $1,400 range back in March of this year, and it's now $1,900, which is a great gain. But you didn't see the doubling. It's not like gold's $2,800. Okay, but why did Newmont see so much leverage? Well, because this translates to margin. Companies like Newmont, or producers, I should say, in general, see the increased margin, and that translates to a higher stock price. It's very easy to see the value there. Now, that is now kind of trickling down into the more junior sector, and that is dominated by exploration. All right, so where do you see the really big lifts? Well, in the mining industry as a whole, we're seeing a dearth or pretty substantial deficit of new projects, new discoveries, and we've been living this for years now. For the gold mining industry, the silver mining industries to be sustainable, you have to have discovery. And so I think the big windfall in this particular cycle is going to be seeing that capital come down to the level of the juniors and seeing that money spent in exploration. I'm very upbeat in the sense that over the past year or so, I've been able to help fund a number of companies that have deposits or targets that have not been on people's radars. In other words, there's a new generation of targets, a new generation of thinking, and so forth that's going to lead to, I think, a new generation of discoveries. And it's a delight. This is what I love. I love to be able to source money and apply it directly towards discovery. And I'm helping a number of companies right now in that. And to see such a nice pipeline of new ideas and new thoughts is delightful. I'm also working with a lot of younger geologists and other technical people who've come into the industry, and they seem to have a serious dedication to discovery. That's refreshing. We need that new generation, like my generation, which I'm going to say early 50s. Unfortunately, BRYX and the downturn in gold prices in the late 1990 caused a huge attrition in my camp of people. So there's just a chronic shortage of people in there, say 45 to 60-year-old range, to do this job. But I am seeing new blood come in. It's absolutely delightful. What does it remind me of? Well, this reminds me of the early 1980s. Okay, gold and silver prices ran in the late 70s. They actually peaked, I believe, in January of 1980. Mm-hmm. And even though they peaked and then they started coming off, there was a huge inflow of capital during that time, which led to discoveries, just one after another. If you look at the 1980s, early 1990s, there was just an absolute, train of discoveries, one after another. I know David Bell, for example, good friend of mine. I think he's one of the best geologists I know. Mm-hmm. Very level-headed guy. Well, he was the guy that discovered Hemlo in, I believe, 1980, and wow. He would have been, a fair bit younger. I mean, that was 40 years ago. But I'm now seeing new David Bells popping up, and that's where I get really excited. I think we got good things coming.
Yeah, there's a lot of passion that we really do see stemming from a lot of the uncertainty as well in the world. And I wanted to ask about Newfound Gold Corp. Can you tell our viewers a little bit about the company and why you invested such a large stake in the company?
This is a classic example of a brand new discovery in my view. Look, there was work done there, I believe, 1980s by Noranda, and then a little bit of work by subsequent companies. Why this thing was not pursued to the absolute end of the earth at that time, I do not know. I mean, it's truly remarkable. I've got the historic data on my computer. I've looked at it many times, and I'm thinking I would not walk away from some of the drill intercepts they had. Nonetheless, they did. I don't know what corporate reasons or gold price drove it, what resulted in them abandoning this project. But the team, this is a classic case. You got, a young team, Denny recognized the potential of this area. I don't know how old Denny is. I reckon he's late 30s or 40 or something. And then you got a young team there. Greg is, again, I think probably late 30s, maybe, my best guess. Really, really young. I'm going to use a slang term, but piss and vinegar type, people who can get out there and explore. And they've done it. I mean, they got out there and as a private company drilled a hole last year. That's one of the most incredible holes I've ever seen in my career. And they hit 19 meters at 93 grams per ton. What does it remind me of? Well, look, I was very fortunate to be part of the Fosterville story in Victoria a few years ago. I was advising Eric Sprott, and he asked me to go look at that shortly after they hit high grade. And I could see right away that it was, without going into too much technical detail about these systems, I could see it was right at that critical level within this orogenic system. And it's at a position where you can get very, very high grades for them. Okay, so to see that as exceptional, as a geologist, you might get to see that in your career once if you're lucky. Earlier this year, I was a friend of mine who's a director of Newfound said, "Boy, you ought to look at you know something about Foster, but you ought to look at this, this prospect we have." So they showed me some photographs, and at first I thought, "Oh, these guys have core from Fosterville." It was just uncanny how similar it was. So I looked at this and I thought, no, this is this can't be. I'll tell you, 3 days later, we were on an airplane heading to Newfoundland, and I got to see it firsthand. And lightning strikes twice occasionally. I saw that it was we'll call it epizonal high-grade gold mineralization. It's got all the bells and whistles. I could go into details, but it was the same stuff as I saw at Fosterville. And based on that, and then the other thing I needed to know, to come away with comfort, was whether the structural regime, the structures in the ground, the actual cracks in the ground that host these veins, had any, length to them, like, if they were just, chopped up in little tiny things, or if there was actually some, some potential legs to this thing that could give it some tons. And after spending a couple of days there and reviewing the data with the guys there, Greg especially, he showed me their geophysics, and hands down, you can see the structure is not disrupted. It's intact, and it looks very, very promising. Wow. Okay, so based on that, the high grade across a wide area of the property, plus this new discovery hole, and then the fact that these structures are clearly evident and clearly continuous over long distances, sold me on the property. That's why we did the share exchange earlier this year and acquired the 15 million shares of Newfound. I think they are on to one of the best discoveries in decades, quite frankly.
And it's interesting to see, it's encouraging anyway, as well, to see Eric Sprott's involvement. And I wanted to ask, since their IPO, Newfound Gold has performed incredibly with shares already up 100%. What is driving this exactly? What lies down the road for the company, or should I say in the ground? You kind of went into it a little bit there, but it sounds like there's still a lot to be found under the ground.
Yeah, there's kind of pick that apart. To start back where you started the question. Eric Sprott and Rob McEwen, both they tend to operate at a very intuitive level. Both guys, I think their success is based on their intuitive ability to identify things. And they both took a stake in Newfound last year when it was a private company. And yes, they are major shareholders. As far as why is the company up 100%, and so look, I'm surprised it's only up 100%, to be frank. Look, they're drilling now. They announced an aggressive drill campaign in I think the end of August, early September. They're drilling a 100,000 meter program. Basically says we're going to drill the bejeebers out of this place. Okay, and that's a good thing. That's what companies need to do. They need to be serious. They need to put the money in the ground. Drill. And I know they're doing that work right now. They're drilling away. They're making very good progress. Look, they put results out from one hole about, I think, around 3 weeks ago now. Very, very good results. There was 4.7 meters, I believe, of 42 grams, and then 5-point-something meters of 25 grams in two separate intercepts within this hole. But what was remarkable is this hole is fully 2 kilometers north of that hole I talked about earlier, the one at the Keat Zone, which was 19 meters of 93 grams. Okay, well, are they connected? Well, we don't know yet. It's going to take a lot more drilling. But I can tell you this, in space, they fall in the same position. They're about 200 meters east of the Appleton Fault, which is the principal structure that goes through the area. And both seem to be falling on a subordinate structure, a secondary structure, which is usually where you find the high-grade deposits in these systems. And whether that's the same structure that carries on up there, I don't know, but I would be kind of shocked to see two completely independent systems that look almost identical without some level of connection, inside the ground. Okay, that's a great story. I mean, think about it. People say, "Oh my gosh, they're $3 a share or whatever." That seems to be high for, like you said, up 100%. Wow,
Right.
It's astounding. Guess what? This thing's just beginning. People think, well, how could it go up more? I've seen people say, "Oh, they've already topped out, and it's hard yards from here," and what? we just started a 100,000-meter drill program, for Pete's sakes. Are you kidding me?
Well, and it's interesting. I do want to point out, as always, because of all the legal stuff that we always have to. None of this is investment advice. Do your own research. Do your own due diligence. But this is very exciting, and a lot of people have been talking about this company lately, and it's been on my radar for a little while. And I'm glad I got to talk with you, because this is the beginning of the start of a really big boom, in my opinion. And if you're getting involved in companies there's a lot of mining companies obviously to pick from, but when you're getting involved in mining companies that are just starting something that they believe is going to prolong at least several years down the line, it's always really good, really bullish news, and something to be excited about. With that said, I wanted to ask you, in a nutshell, why do you think people should get involved in New Found Gold, and where can they find out more information on the company?
Okay, look, why should people get involved? We're at a very early stage of discovery. You look at the holes that have been announced today, and they actually provide you an indication of what you might see coming up. Look, I've looked at a lot of gold discoveries, and what I focus on are the first holes that were drilled into the discovery. And what you do is you take the grade of the hole over the interval that was intersected. So you multiply the two. You take grams per ton, multiply it by meters, you come up with gram meters. Okay, and in discoveries, like multi-million ounce discoveries, usually you see numbers in the hundreds to even a few thousand gram meters, and that's what we have here at Newfound. Like this, the early holes, I think, are giving us an indication of what we might see down the road. Especially, we see continued results like that, and I think it's well within reason to say that this company is onto a major discovery. We're at the very early stage. If you look at where we are, say, use the Lassonde curve, we're way down at the little, the inflection point, where it's just lifting off the bottom, and we're heading up that curve right now.
Right.
I would say that over the next 6 to 12 months, you should see a great appreciation in share price. As far as where people should find information, of course, New Found Gold's website. They've also put out a number of videos. They're trying to provide updates through a series of videos with interviews with the geologists and so forth. Mm-hmm. And then I'm talking quite a bit, so I think some of these videos are available. Look, the company is not shy about putting information out there. I think what's going to make the difference is, when people see, as more drill results come in, and people can see, oh my gosh, this is truly holding together and so forth. I think as people get comfort, and then that speculative, fever joins that, you'll see the share price appreciate greatly.
Well, I'm always really happy to talk to people involved in exciting companies that are making good ground. And as I mentioned, guys, always do your own due diligence. We have the website linked below. And of course, we're happy to talk with you anytime. Thanks for talking with us today, sir.
Thank you, Josh. Take care.
I'm sure you have already changed people's minds in your young age because you're involved, and I like that.